Minister, thanks for your time. The Prime Minister talking about the need for strength on national security, but the problem is that deal with China has happened on the Coalition's watch.
Well, we have been strong in dealing with China and standing up to China. We were the first government to recognise the need for us to do so. If you look at the way we've stood up to the economic coercion that China has tried to place on us, we've worked with our industries to make sure we can diversify, make sure that we can continue to pursue our national interests, which is for a peaceful and prosperous Pacific, a peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific. And I don't think there's any question that we were the first government. As a matter of fact, everywhere that I travelled over the last year and a half, there was nothing but respect for what the Morrison government has done in standing up to China and in standing up for peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. And that is what we're going to need to see continuing. We need strength, and we need strength when it comes to national security and strength when it comes to the economy, because that ultimately is how you make sure that you can put the expenditure into our defence assets that we need. And we saw that in the budget with what we've done with regards to cyber security, an incredibly strong package which protects us from cyber attacks, and we'll continue to make sure that we're making those investments to keep our nation strong and make sure we're dealing with these threats as we see them. So,
yeah, I think it's fair to say most would agree that the government's been forward-leaning on calling out China. That's one thing, but this encroachment into our neighbourhood, this deal with the Solomons, again, I put it to you, it's happened on the Coalition watch. Where's the contact between the Foreign Minister and her counterpart? Why hasn't the Prime Minister been on the phone to his counterpart?
Well, ultimately, in the end, Kieran, sovereign countries make sovereign decisions, but we have been working with the Pacific to make sure that they understand the importance of a free and open Pacific region, and we're continuing to do that. We're continuing to work with New Zealand. We're continuing to work with other Pacific nations to make sure that everyone understands the importance of a free and open Pacific. It's why we invested in the Pacific Step Up well before any of this had happened, because we knew and understood the threat. Now, sovereign countries ultimately in the end will make sovereign decisions, but we'll continue to work with the Solomons to make sure that they understand the importance of working with Australia, New Zealand and other Pacific islands, and in particular, making sure that that commitment that they've given, that we're our strategic partner of choice, the security partner of choice, that continues to be the case, and we'll continue to work through that. And ultimately, in the end, sovereign countries, sovereign decisions, but collectively, we will make sure we continue to work through this, because we understand, and we've been very clear in pointing this out over the last few years, how important it is that we have a free and open Pacific and a free and open and prosperous Indo-Pacific.
Indeed, crucial to our future. So whoever wins on the 21st of May faces that difficulty. Last night we had this robust leaders debate, the second of the debates. Are you concerned that having a stink on the TV with the Prime Minister and the opposition leader in terms of their row in that debate, that it actually drives people towards the minor parties and independence?
Well, the thing that concerned me most about the debate was once again that lack of detail and lack of policy knowledge of the leader of the opposition. I think once again we saw that the PM was right across his brief. It came as no surprise to me. I've seen it around the cabinet table, that incredible knowledge and policy detail right across the breadth of portfolios. Yet once again, we didn't see that from the leader of the opposition. And in the end, I think that's the big question mark that was raised from last night, was he just isn't across that detail. He's very good at his glib one-liners, but when it comes to detail, there's nothing to be seen. And I think that ultimately is the deep concern. And I think that'll be in the back of people's minds when they go and cast their vote either today or or on election day or in the preceding few days, because I think cut away all the other noise, ultimately in the end, that was the clear thing that came across for me.
Can you still win, given where the polls are at, 35 primary?
Absolutely, we can still win. And we'll continue between now and the 21st to put a compelling case as to why there is a clear choice at this election, and why that choice should be ensuring that strong economy, strong future, that strength when it comes to national security is so important at this time. And we'll continue making that case between now and the 21st. And I'm convinced that we still are very much in this race, that it's wide open, and we can still form government on the evening of 21 May.
A tough event though last week. You spoke about the issues Labor faces. For the government though, having a rate rise dead smack in the middle of the campaign, it doesn't help, does it? Like as we saw back in 2007 when the Howard government was voted out of office.
Well, I think we need to look at what the Reserve Bank said when that rate rise occurred. First of all, the rate was at 0.1%. We saw a 0.25% rise. But the Reserve Bank said that this is very much the economy stabilising after the extraordinary measures that they had to take to ensure that we got through the pandemic. And they saw that this is basically a normalising of the economy, and the fact that that's occurring now shows that we have been able to steer the economy through the pandemic, and we've been able to do so in a way that now the economic recovery is stabilising. So yes, sure, tough, but the Reserve Bank have given very good grounds as to why it's occurred, and it really demonstrates once again the economic stewardship that the government has been able to show through the pandemic, and the fact that the economy now is stabilising. And we also have to remember that we know and understand that as the economy is stabilising, there is cost of living pressures on people, and that's why the budget had those cost of living measures in there to help them as the economy stabilises as we come out of the pandemic.
One of the industries hit hardest in the pandemic has been tourism, as you know better than most, having had coverage of that as Trade and Tourism Minister. There have been some sort of piecemeal supports announced during the campaign, but what they really need is to rebuild those international markets and to get people back into this country.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why we've put $60 million into making sure that we're doing that. It's why we've put money into specific marketing when it comes to getting backpackers back, when it comes to getting international students back. We understand how important it is, and one of the things I must say that I've found incredibly gratifying as I've been around the country and my own electorate is the amount of travel agents who have come up to me and said, thank you for the assistance that the government was able to provide to steer us through the pandemic. Overall, our economic measures that helped the tourism industry throughout the pandemic equated to about $20 billion. So there is no doubt we steered the industry through the pandemic. Now what we've got to make sure is that we can help them grow as we come out of it, and that's why our 2030 strategy that we put in place, that we put funding behind in the budget is so important, because now is the time to set the tourism industry up for the future, and that's exactly what we've done through our 2030 strategy.
Joining me live from Hamilton in Victoria, Dan Tehan, the Trade Minister. Thanks, appreciate it.
Pleasure, Kieran.